Hello, 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 and good afternoon. This is Community Connections, community talk for community people. It is the fastest and most friendly weekly 1 hour talk show in the Great Lakes Bay region. I am glad that you tuned in this afternoon for another sharing of community talk. I said community talk and information. I am Joyce Harvin. Today's Community Connection show is brought to you by the Saginaw branch of the NAACP and its youth council. We have a wonderful youth council. We urge you to get connected, be informed, and stay involved. On this afternoon, it's got dark outside already. The weather, it is snowing a little bit as I came out the door, drove down the highway. I was hoping that the temperature would not drop and so I wouldn't slide off the road, but it's been a nice day. It's been a nice day until I started outside and saw the snowflakes falling, big ones, big wet ones. But it's been a nice day. And then when I got here to the station, the music was flowing right, so I'm in a really, really, really good mood. I hope that you are too. Now, here on Community Connections, every second Sunday of the month, I invite guests to be on this show to talk about civic engagement, what it means to be civically engaged, and how to get people of all ages at all levels and every segment of the community involved with voter education, registration, how the city and county and state and federal government works, and also our educational institutions, our school boards, our school districts. When I say we, I mean people who work with me and also the NAACP. We want you to get connected, informed, and involved. So that is why we do what we do, and that is why I have this show. I want you to be connected, informed, and involved. I want to say hello to some new friends and neighbors. Jalen, he is interested in finding out about how he can get engaged. He moved here from New York, and he's interested in becoming a part of the community and making some things happen. So today I bring back to the mic one of my great guests here on Community Connections. She is Saginaw County Clerk Vanessa Guerra. She's going to be joining me in just a few minutes. Time goes by so quickly as we, go from one event to another. We go from one office to another. This year certainly has gone by very quickly. Here it is. We're almost at December, and 2021 has just gone by so fast. We need to do a lot of things here in Saginaw, in this area. In Saginaw, we were mentioned on national media today about the COVID numbers going up, and those states around the Mitten State, Michigan, those numbers are going up. We need to protect ourselves, to protect our families, protect our children, and get them vaccinated. I recommend the vaccination to you this day. Don't have any money or handouts to give you if you go and get a vaccination, but you surely should go and get a vaccination for COVID. You don't want to get COVID. I had my booster this week. I'm so happy that I did. I finally got around to it, and making sure that I had a couple of days where I could rest in case I had a little reaction to that. I did have a reaction. I was in the bed for a couple of days. I was kind of tired. My arm was a little sore. And that was like on, Wednesday, Thursday. But today I am feeling good. I'm feeling good. And usually when I am not feeling well, or have had a reaction from my second boost, my second vaccination, I try to push through that. I keep on going. I take some Tylenol and I keep on moving. Couldn't do that quite. This week I was in the bed for like a day and a half, but I am feeling great right now. Feeling great right now. I want to give you some information about where you can go get vaccinations and booster shots. They are available at the old Sears Auto Center They're still doing shots, testing, and booster shots there. Also at the Saginaw County Health Department. I actually went to Ojibwe Island and got my shot. They were all out there, just absolutely everywhere. So you really don't have a valid reason, a real good reason for not getting a booster shot. There is a Delta variant that's coming along, moving this way, and we want to protect. We want you protected and your family protected. So please consider, getting a shot. I want to go through my community announcements, let you know about some things that are happening in the community. First of all, I do want to say congratulations to women of colors. Not congratulations, but to give you a big ups. For many years, you have been doing the coat drives here in the Saginaw community, giving away free coats every year to parents and young people who need them for this weather. And today you have that weather. So I hope that you can get your coat out and wear it and be warm and comfortable. But big ups to them for continuing the work, in the community to provide much needed resources to families and to children. They really did a good job. I saw them all over TV. I saw Vicky Hill and also the president of Women of Colors. They were on television. I said, okay, this is the week for that. But great job, ladies. Keep it up. Keep it up. Also, I want you to know about the 44th annual Christmas parade that's taking place on Saturday, November the 20th at 11 a.m. This parade starts at the corner of Genesee. The corner of Genesee and Washington, and we'll go down Washington and turn onto Ezra Drive and end over at Ojibwe Island. We ask you to, if you are part of a nonprofit organization, or a church or a youth group, and you'd like to be in the parade, they will accept your entry. Up until Friday noon, I believe. And there is a small entry fee of $30. You can walk the parade, you can have a float, you can ride in a car. But we want you to be involved with the Christmas parade. I know some youth are saying, I don't believe in Christmas. I don't want to do this. Well, it is the spirit. And the title of the parade this year, or the theme, is Christmas Miracles. So, expect a miracle, look for a miracle, and see who delivers on that. So again, this is happening Saturday, November the 20th at 11 a.m. And it's going to go through downtown on Washington and end at Ojibwe Island. Now, on Friday, November the 19th, there will be holidays in the heart of the city, and that's going to start Friday the 19th at 5:45. They're going to light up the what is the water plant, they call it? The water treatment plant. That's what it is. And there will be activities all around the city. At churches, there will be Santa's reindeer and transportation across the bridge provided by First Student, all kind of things. And over at the Anderson Enrichment Center, there will be a lot of arts and crafts available for you. And don't forget to stop by down at SVRC and get your book from Kanika Owens Robinson Pugh. And she has a book about her daughter, Andrea, and the science fair. So please stop by and get your autographed copy of her book and purchase a couple of them to go into the baskets and gift boxes of your family members, especially the kids. Have them read to you. That's very, very important. Okay, I'm going to come back to my list of community announcements. But right now, I do have my guest on the line, Vanessa Guerra. She is the Saginaw County Clerk. Good afternoon, Miss Vanessa.
Hi, Joyce.
Hey, how are you doing this evening, this snowy evening?
I'm good, trying to stay warm inside.
Yes. I'm glad that we could accommodate you so you wouldn't have to go outside.
Thank you.
Listen, I want to just give a little background on you. At the age of 24, Vanessa Guerra was elected to the Bridgeport Township trustee position, and that was in 2012. And that is where you discovered a calling for public service at a higher level. And so you sought that out, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Now it said here, I saw in information I got off the website and online, it said that you really liked that position, but you realized that you wanted to create a better community for all of Saginaw County, not just Bridgeport. So why should I wait when I am ready to make a good community now?
Yeah.
You went on to be the 95th District State Representative, and you won for 2 terms. Now you're the county clerk, okay? And you won with a majority of the votes, okay?
Yeah.
Now, with everything that you wanted to do while elected or on the working for the state or elected to the state, were you able to accomplish all or many of the things that you set out to do?
Certainly not everything that I set out to do. I mean, one thing that, we have to be realistic about is the fact that I served 3 terms in the House, and all 3 terms I served in the minority. And so right now we're talking a lot about redistricting and drawing new maps and trying to make them more fair, because the reality is right now, even though I won my district, Democrats are not in charge either in the House or the Senate. We have a Democratic governor, of course, but for the most part, when you don't have either chamber, or at least even a close balance in either chamber, not as much negotiating or compromise happens as it should. But, we did accomplish quite a few things that I'm very proud of. And a bipartisan thing we accomplished is helping prevent the closure of couple of Saginaw public schools and a school in Bridgeport. That was a few years ago. And then probably the thing that I've been continuing to work on are the expungement law. So that was a very large package. So it wasn't just my piece of legislation by any means, but that passed. And so now in my current job as county clerk, I'm being able to actually utilize the very law that I was advocating for and voted on, and now able to use it to actually help people clear their records.
Okay, very good. People are still asking about the expungement clinics that were held. The last one, I believe, at Michigan Works. They are still looking for those. So I hope that those clinics will resurface in the very near future.
Yeah, so we had, I think in total, around 1,100 people that ended up, and I think people are continuing to sign up. But I think going forward, we're probably going to change our format and ask pro bono attorneys to come into Michigan Works and meet with clients when they're able to. Because the big clinics, it's a lot of pressure on all the staff, and it doesn't always work for everyone, right? So the actual applicants themselves, sometimes they can't get the day off of work, or they have to cancel because, with COVID, we had a couple of cancellations. So I think we're going to change the format. But another thing that I hope to work on, I don't know if I'll get it done before the end of the year, but is a video explaining how applicants can kind of do it themselves, because the goal is that you don't have to hire an attorney to do this work, but it is confusing and complicated. And so if we can make a video walking people through how they fill out this paperwork, I think that will be really helpful to people.
Are you working on a video now?
I'm in the early stages.
Okay.
So MichiganLegalHelp.org is a website that I use all the time. It has a lot of good information aside from expungements. And they actually have a do-it-yourself toolkit that walks you through the steps. It's not a video that you watch, but it has a list of all the steps. And so I'm going to ask if Legal Services of Eastern Michigan, who I partnered with in the past on these expungements, if they'd like to assist in making that video.
Yes.
It won't be very difficult, but I want to make sure that all the information we put out is accurate and easy to understand. And that's the work they do all the time, is assisting folks with legal advice. So I know they'll be a good partner.
Very good. Very good. Vanessa, you seem to be everywhere that the people want you to be, at all of the community events. People always talk about that, they say Vanessa, she's everywhere. I say, yes, she gets a lot done. Can you speak for your stamina and how you keep going?
Yeah, I really appreciate that because I do try and go to as many events as I can. Obviously, I'm not able to make all of them, but it's just really important for me to be present in the community. I mean, I'm so appreciative of the opportunity that the voters have given me to serve. And I think that anytime you're collecting, a paycheck from the taxpayers, that it's my responsibility to continue to think innovatively about how I can assist them moving forward. And so that's sort of where I get my passion to be everywhere and to try and think about different programming we can bring because I know that people have placed their trust in me and I want to make sure that I live up to that.
Okay, now I invited you here to be on the show to talk about being civically engaged. I started out at the beginning of the year talking about the second Sundays of every month being civic Sundays, where people can learn about government. So I want you to come on to talk about your duties and responsibilities and all of the services that are available through the county clerk's office.
Sure.
And were you prepared for all that you had to do after leaving the job as the 95th representative?
I was prepared. I'd done a lot of research before running for this office.
Okay.
I said it would be a good fit for me for a variety of reasons. I was very passionate about elections when I served in the state house, and that is one of the major components of our job as the county clerk. But we do a lot of different things. And so we actually have 3 divisions within the county clerk's office. The first being vital records. So that's the one probably most people know. That's where you go to get your birth certificate, a death certificate, marriage certificate, or apply if you're marriage license if you're applying to get married. We also do notaries and CPLs. And then the other division we have is the circuit court records office. And so anybody who has a circuit court case, and that can be family or civil suits over $25,000, they have likely visited the circuit court records office. And the one thing I always like to point out about that is that so the folks in an office, they are there to process your paperwork, but they're not attorneys and they're not able to give legal advice. And so sometimes it's really frustrating for folks because, going through the legal process is difficult and they do have questions. And I know they assume that people on the other side of the counter can assist, but they really can't do that sort of work. So that's the second division. And then the third division of the county clerk's office is, of course, elections. So we help administer state, local, and federal elections across the entire county. And so we've been busy this year. A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of local elections that happen in, the off years, as they call them. But we've had a few elections this year. And then certainly next year with the gubernatorial race, it's going to be a very big election in 2022. So it's been having the small elections has been a really good opportunity for me to learn and think about how we can educate people and be out in the community talking about elections next year for the governor's race.
Well, some of the things that you mentioned in terms of wanting to become the county clerk, you want to streamline the services.
Yes.
By partnering with the state of Michigan, Secretary of State. Tell us about that. How is that taking place? We want to show the difference to our listening audience on how it was and what you're doing now.
Sure. One of the things that we have done to help streamline, we just went live with these an online database where you can, or online system, I should say, where you'll be able to order your birth certificates, all of those vital records online, and then you don't even have to come into the office. We have one little technical hang up. We have to get our credit card system running, and so we're not able to utilize it just yet, but we hope to have that in the next probably couple months here, or certainly before the end of the year, and then we'll be able to be a totally online system.
Can I, when you talk about your credit card, can I ask you this one question real quick?
Yes.
Will you be charging a fee to use those services in the office? Because every time I want to pay my taxes or get something else, they say, well, there's going to be a fee.
Yeah, there is a credit card fee. And that, unfortunately, that comes with any vendor you use because you have to use a vendor to process the credit card transactions. And then the way they make money is through this processing fee. So unfortunately, there is a fee. But to avoid the fee, you can always come in person, of course, and pay with cash and then it's not applied in that way.
And see all the good workers that are there in the office.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Let me put that spin on it. Okay, go ahead.
The other thing that we've done that I think is different and not something a lot of people think about unless they're involved in politics, but we've recently made it easier so that people can sign campaign finance reports for all local candidates. So there not many counties in the state have an online database, but we went live with that a couple weeks ago. And so if you visit our website, you can go and look through all the campaign finance reports. I think we have all of them that were left to us when we entered the office, which is quite a few. I think they date back around 20 years or so. But that's just kind of another small thing. We talked a lot about transparency on the campaign, and you can always look up a state candidate's information, campaign finance information online.
Oh yeah,
so I wanted to be able. Yep, I wanted to be able to do that for our local candidates too, because no matter the level you're elected, we all have to be held to a higher standard.
Okay. Now, have you been able to work on the extension of hours for evenings and weekends?
We are still working on that. So one thing that we have to change a little or work with is the unions, because they have unions employees have a contract, and so a lot of the hours are set in that. But we've talked to staff about it. A lot of them are open to restructuring so that we can offer later hours. And so I expect sometime next year we'll be able to get there. I think it took, so we have about 18 staff, and all of them stayed when I came on. And so it's just taken some time for us to all sort of get used to each other and for them to sort of learn the ways that I want to change the office. And it's going very well. I've been appreciative of all of the help and guidance that they've offered. And so we hope to be able to do that next year.
Okay. Now with court records, are there any changes there within your office? Is there any additional information? I know sometimes people are looking for copies of the records of the court, or court, what do you call it?
Yeah, they come in and get copies of their records, or if they had a case themselves, or maybe they're, so that will be online, but that program won't go live until the middle of next year. And so that's a full courthouse revamp, I should say. So I didn't necessarily, that didn't happen because of me being in there, but certainly supportive of it. And we're going to work to ensure that it's user friendly for constituents.
Transcript was the word I was looking for. Those transcripts of court proceedings.
And a quick thing about that, a lot of people do assume that we have those. So those are actually the proprietary, the property of the typist, of the person who transcribed them.
Oh, really?
So we do have to refer people to whoever it was that, and usually they're associated with the courtroom to get those. If they're really old, we'll probably have them, but if it's anything more recent, you'd have to get them from the courtroom, not the circuit court records office.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I thought all of that was, if that person is an employee of the county and she is doing the work, then that record becomes part of the county. So that is not so.
I thought we had them all as well. And then I learned, no, mostly we do have a number of the old ones, as I mentioned, because as they leave, they'll give them back to us. But if you want copies of them, then you get them from them.
Wow. Okay. That's good information. Some people are always looking for those court records to see what the judge actually said.
Right. we hear that a lot.
Right. Okay. What else? Tell me how how your office operates. I know that you are not just an administrator supervising, the whole component, in the office, but what are your responsibilities other than making sure everything is right?
Yep. And that's a lot. That's largely what it is. So we have, like I said, 3 different offices. And so my actual office that I work out of is in the basement near the circuit court records office. And then, so all day long, I'm really up and down the stairs between the vital records and elections office and the circuit court records office. But just trying to ensure that all of them are running smoothly, because obviously there are people that come in every single day to utilize those services. So there's that sort of face-to-face, making sure people are getting good services that way. But we have a lot of folks who utilize the mail as well. And so that's another component of it. And then thinking about different programming and how we can make people's lives easier with the services that we do provide.
When you talk about engaging young people to become active citizens and committed voters, how will you make that happen? How are you working to make that happen?
Yeah, recently, so this happened this fall. I was able to partner with a number of the AKAs here in Saginaw, and they sort of set up meetings for me to go to the different schools. And so I think I went to 4 different student groups and registered voters and talked to them about voting. And I think the most interesting part that I took away from that, because I really wanted to talk to students about, do you plan to vote? And if you don't plan to vote, what is that reason why? And so overall, the students at that, they're turning 18 or will be 18 very soon. And most of them are excited. We did have a few, though, that were very honest and just said, I don't see anything good changing, and so I don't see the point in voting. And the other feedback we got, too, are people who are intermittent voters. So sometimes they vote. So this was an older group I was talking to of students, and they said a lot for them, it depends on the candidate, and that they just really felt like there hasn't been a good candidate in the last few presidential elections. And so they haven't been drawn to vote. And so one thing I mentioned, obviously I want people to vote up and down the ballot, every single race.
Right.
But if you don't have a candidate who you prefer for the president, there are a lot of other races that are happening and a lot of other names on that ballot who really sometimes have a more significant impact on your life. And so we talk about our local races, our county races, who's running for judge, all of those races. Even if you can't stand the candidates for president, look at those other races because they're just as important as who's running for president.
Were the students open to learning more about the candidates, the local candidates, the representatives, state senators who are running for office? Were they open to trying to find out more about them?
Yes. And that was one thing that they sort of complained about, too, is they said, okay, that's fine. Maybe I won't vote for president, but I'd rather vote for the other races. But how do I find out about that candidate? And so I told a lot of them, a lot of local candidates, if they're running a good, engaging race, will have a Facebook page or they'll have a website or they'll go to community events where you'll be able to engage with them. And so those are some of the ways. It's not, I don't think it's like it before where you could just look in the paper and there'd be information or it'd be all over the news. Local races don't really get covered in that same way. And so I think it's incumbent on candidates to meet young people where they are. And they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, some of them are on Twitter or TikTok. And so utilizing those platforms to actually reach voters. And I've done that a lot in my own campaign. And I think it's been pretty successful. And so I encourage the young people, that's one way you can find out more information.
Okay, that's good information. We recently, with the NAACP, they at their community meeting, it was on Facebook last week. We had some millennials on.
Yes.
That was last week, and you were on as well, talking about redistricting, which we're going to get to. But there was some good information. We wanted to know why they were not at the table and how we can get them to the table. So those meetings are going to continue. Do you have any good suggestions or ideas on how we can get more young people, starting with the age of 17 or 18, at the table to be more not involved, but get them more interested in civics and government and knowing how it works?
Yeah. So I've done some research on what are some good young voter outreach programs in other states. And while I was meeting with these student groups, there was a lot of times students that serve on the student council for that school who were at the meetings that I was going to. And so I talked to them like, what if we formed a committee with whether it's just for your school or maybe we open it up to all the schools and just a couple students from each high school come and talk about, how do you reach voters, or young people, I should say, because I think a lot of times, I like to think that I'm young, but I'm obviously I'm not a teenager anymore. And so if I want to think about how to engage young teen or voting age teens, I need to talk to them and ask them, because they're going to know best how they want to be talked to and what they want to learn and how they want to be engaged. And I think that group from the NAACP meeting last weekend was saying the same thing, that they just feel like nobody ever really seeks them out unless, of course, they, it's like at the last minute and they're scrounging for votes, but they don't take the time to actually reach out to them and ask them what they want to see. And so that definitely hit home, because like I said, when I was going to the high schools, that was the same message that I heard from them as well.
Well, when you reach out to them and they have events, do they invite you? Do they invite us to come in?
Right.
They have to say, well, we want you to come and speak to it. We can't just barge our way in and say, well, I want to come and do this, so they have to be open to the idea of receiving information.
Yes. Yep. And I will say another thing that after that group spoke at the meeting last week, that I started to think about is, I do get invited to a lot of events, but do I ever think about sort of more unique events that I wouldn't necessarily think to go to? So I know in the past, like I've been invited to fashion shows, which was popular for a while. And I've gone to a couple, but, even though it doesn't seem political, they still want to see their representatives there. They want to know that they're part of the community and that they're at least willing to do the same things that they're interested in. Even if they don't invite me there to talk about politics, making them comfortable with getting, knowing who their elected officials are, I think is the most important.
Yes. We got to do a better job, but we want them to be partners in doing that better job. Tell us what we need to do. But I'll tell you again, I'll say it again. County Clerk Vanessa Guerra, you are everywhere all the time.
Thank you.
And we appreciate that. We really do. We appreciate that. Now, tell us more about the works of the Saginaw County government. I'd like to talk a little bit about redistricting and how that has impacted or affected the county commissioners' districts. Is that included in the redistricting?
Yep. So there are 2 redistricting processes that took place this year. One of them is still ongoing. That is the state redistricting, which is done by the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission.
Yes.
So recall in 2018, we voted a ballot measure or constitutional amendment to create this independent commission. So they are working on making our maps for Congress, for the state Senate, and for the state House. And so that's still ongoing. Their deadline is December 30th. So they are in the public comment period. So they have several maps that they have adopted and put forward as the proposed maps. And they're seeking public comment right now. So you can do it online by visiting their website. You can do it by phone. You can mail in. There's a lot of options there. And so the plan is that by December 30th, they'll vote on which ones are going to move forward. So they have about, I think, like 3 or 4 for each level. So 3 or 4 for the congressional, 3 or 4 for the state House, and for the state Senate. But they have to narrow it down to 1 by voting on it. So that'll be at the end of December that happens.
As the district commission was put into place, is there room for extensions if they don't meet the deadline at the end of December?
Right. So the commission did attempt to receive an extension. They would have to have gotten it from permission from the Michigan Supreme Court, because the Constitution does have the deadlines that they need to meet. But the Supreme Court did not give them an extension, largely because the time hadn't passed yet. So they don't want to do something in advance of it not actually being past the deadline yet. So they potentially could again go before the court if they miss their deadline. We could see that. I do think that they want to get it done sooner rather than later, because we have to send out updated voter registration cards. And in order to do that, people need to know what district they live in. Or if people are running for state Senate or House or Congress, they need to know what offices or districts that they are seeking to represent. So there could be an extension, but so far there is not one in place, and December 30th is still the deadline. The other type of redistricting that happened this year is county redistricting.
Yes.
So that's where we draw new maps for county commissioners. And so that we completed that on October 6th, I believe. And that was myself. I serve on the commission that did that work, the county treasurer, the county prosecutor, and then the chair of the Democratic Party here in Saginaw and the chair of the Republican Party here in Saginaw. And so we completed that. There are still 11 commissioners, which is what we currently have. But the maps themselves have changed a little bit, and that was, they had to. The population change in Michigan or in Saginaw County forced us to have to draw different maps than what they exist right now.
Can you please, just for a few minutes, tell how that redistricting map takes place? You know, the time that I was there, you know, I learned a lot. You know, you can only, it's kind of difficult for me to explain it. Tell us what happened as they redistrict and make the changes.
Yeah, so we're given the statute that created county apportionment is what we call it, but it's redistricting. It gives us some guidelines that we have to follow. So the maps, the districts have to be contiguous. They have to be as compact and as nearly square in shape as possible. And every attempt should be made to keep communities unified. So, you know, trying to keep Bridgeport Township all with one commissioner, trying to keep Birch Run Township all with one commissioner. And so those are the sort of some of the guidelines that we had. There's more than that, but those are probably the most important ones. And so as we drew these maps, we first tried to draw the maps exactly as they were before. So when they got redrawn in 2011, because it's a process we do every 10 years.
10 years, right.
Yep, we tried to draw them exactly the same. And the thought process was, you know, we don't want to change up people's political commission or representative at the county level, because you get accustomed to knowing that, you know, you live in District 1 or you live in District 8, and we don't want to confuse voters. But when we did that, again, because of the decrease in population, it no longer worked. It no longer met the requirements of the law to be balanced and fair.
Now, each district could only have so many voters in it, right?
Right. And so how you figure that out?
How do you figure that out? Right.
Yeah. So you take the total population in Saginaw County, and then you divide that by the number of commissioners that the commission has established. Ours is 11. And so with the newest census data, we're at 194,000 around there here in Saginaw County. So that divided by 11 gives us around, I believe, 17,000 people per district. And so that's the ideal population, is around, you know, you don't want to go too far above or too far below that 17,000. And that's how, you know, we have to keep that in mind when we're drawing these maps as well. So keeping them balanced in terms of population and then keeping communities unified are the two main priorities when we're making a map.
So the maps have been shown to the now county commissioners, the current county commissioners.
Yeah.
They've seen all of that. And are they satisfied with that? Or?
Some are, some aren't. So there'll be, if the individuals who currently serve on the commission were all to run again in 2022, which is when they're all up, we would see two primaries. One on the Democratic side, so the representative, sitting commissioner Jack Taney and sitting commissioner chairman Carl Ruth, their districts merged in this new map. And so if they both decide to run again in 2022, they would be running against each other in the Democratic primary. The other big one is that on the Republican side, if sitting commissioner Carol Ewing and sitting commissioner Dennis Kraft decided to run again in 2022, they also, their districts, their current ones merged. And so they would be in a primary on the Republican side. And so, you know, when we made these maps, we could not think about the sitting commissioners, because we're not drawing districts for sitting commissioners.
Right. We're
drawing them based on the numbers and based on unifying keeping the communities unified. And so once it was done, and, you know, you see that now, it's unfortunate, because I think they're all, you know, great commissioners, but again, we couldn't draw a map for a certain person. And I think at the same time too, that means it's balanced. I tell people, if I've made both the Democrats and the Republicans angry, then I probably did an okay job, because we're supposed to be balanced, and I'm not supposed to, give a partisan advantage to one party or the other. I'm a partisan elected official, but when I'm doing this work, it has to be nonpartisan.
How many engaged people in our community, in the county, participated in helping to redraw those, or gave suggestions, or filled out a survey, or said anything about how they would like to see the districts redrawn?
So in terms of like who showed up at meetings, I would say we've had several in-person meetings where this happened. Not a lot. So we probably never had really more than 10 people at a meeting. But what we did have, because we stream them on Facebook Live, and so we have viewers on there. And so one of our videos that I checked was at like over 400 views. People had watched it or had tuned into it. And so I think in that way, we're able to reach a lot more people than our in-person meetings. And I've been very upfront. I learned a lot from this process. If I'm fortunate enough to be here in 10 years to do it again, I think one thing I might do is host the meetings across the county. Our county commissioner is actually doing that right now with these ARPA meetings. And so, and I think that's been really helpful and interesting and a good way to engage folks. And so I would like to do that next time around. But other than that, I think we did all that we could to engage folks. It's just not a super interesting process, especially when state redistricting is going on. So many more people are focused on that. And so, but I think, next time around, we'll find other ways to engage more people too.
I would think that the process that was in place for these redistricting meetings should be available in the next 10 years. So young people who are 17 or 18 now can see what the process was and what needs to be done, so that they understand that. So 10 years from now, that young person is going to be 28. And if they're going to be here, we want them to understand what the process is and to actually become engaged with trying to change it or be a part of it.
Yeah. And that's why, I try and talk a lot about this commission work now, because I think in general, people should be more aware of our county commissioners.
Yes.
They do really important work in the county, and I don't think always have gotten the attention and engagement that they should have. And so that hopefully in 10 years from now, their work is more elevated and people are paying more attention to what they do.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Now on the statewide redistricting, what is happening just for our area?
So for our area, like I said, there's 3 maps that the commission themselves proposed, and I believe all 3 at the congressional level have our congressional district still with Flint, and then Bay City and the Saginaw City and Midland. So that will change. So that would be a new thing for us. At the state Senate level, I believe this is, again, true for all 3, is that we are now, so currently the state Senate seat is all of Saginaw County, and then it goes into a portion of Genesee County. Now it goes more north. And so now it's not all of Saginaw County. It's like Saginaw, the city of Saginaw, Saginaw Township, I think Kochville, and then there's Bay City and part of the city of Midland. So again, that would be a very big change for that state Senate seat. And then the state House seat is very different. So it's the city of Saginaw. Bridgeport's no longer in it, which is unfortunate because I really liked representing Bridgeport when I was in the state House.
Yes.
It has parts of Saginaw Township and Carlton. And I think it no longer has Kochville or Zilwaukee, which was a new addition after 2011 to that district seat. But there'll be big changes, and I have to remind folks that this is what we voted for. We voted for this independent commission that is not drawing maps, because previously, of course, politicians got to draw them. It was the party in power got to draw them. And so this is, what we voted for, and it's not going to be perfect, but this is difficult work, and we have to go based on the numbers and the communities of interest. And so if people have a chance to look at the maps, please do so, because again, right now is that 45-day comment period. And they need to know, like, if you look at the map and you see, oh no, that community, that city should really be with that township because they're very similar or something like that. Those are the types of comments they really need to hear.
Where can they go? Can you give them the website where they can go and actually see those maps?
Yes. It's michigan.gov/MICRC. Or if you just Google the Michigan Independent Citizen Redistricting Commission, it'll come up for you. So it's the Michigan Independent Citizen Redistricting Commission. Any of those words, if you Google it, it should bring up their
It should bring it up.
Yeah, but their acronym is MICRC.
Okay. Have you personally heard anyone say, "Oh, I wish we had not started this," or we wish that we hadn't changed the process?
Right. I have not heard that. I think there are folks who are, a lot of us are partisan. Obviously, I'm a Democrat, and so sometimes I look at the maps and I think, "Gosh, I wish it was a little bit more Democratic friendly." But that's not supposed to be the intent of this. It's supposed to make them more fair. And so I think we have a couple of good options in these maps. And I know I need to take a closer look because I also want to submit comments. But it's hard to not keep my partisan feelings out of it because I know how hard it is to work in the minority. But I'd rather have them balanced more than anything else.
Okay. And with all of this work, this new work with the redistricting, Vanessa, did you have any students who were working with you or learning about the process, any interns from college or anything like that? Because this would have been good information for them.
Right.
Did you have any of those?
We have not engaged interns again this year, I should say, mostly because of COVID.
Yeah.
We're actually very cramped in the clerk's office, and we're talking to the county about trying to find more space for us in the county building. Okay. But because of that, we didn't want to bring in more bodies. But we have talked about the opportunity to do it. So we've talked to the Saginaw Defender's Office. We've talked to the Hoyt Library because we have a lot of historical documents, and they mentioned we could maybe partner with like SVSU to get students to do that sort of genealogy history type work.
Yes.
But we didn't want to. We're still holding off this year just because again we're cramped, and we with COVID we didn't want to put anybody at risk. But it is on our agenda, and we want to be able to engage those folks because it is a good opportunity to learn.
Well, can't you get some of those ARPA funds to expand your office over there? You got 37 million that you can build another whole wing.
Yes. Yeah. We have talked to the county commission about it, and they're actually taking proposals. That's another thing I was going to mention. So we have a board meeting, just a regular board meeting on Tuesday of this coming week. But the next ARPA meeting will be, I think it's the second Tuesday in December, maybe December 13th or so, where folks can present about how they think the county should utilize the dollars. And they'll stop taking proposals January 25th is the deadline for the county.
January 25th. Okay.
Yep. So people have, and you don't necessarily have to have a proposal, but if you just have thoughts about what you would like to use, how you think the county should use those dollars, or encouraging folks to either attend the meetings. You can also always email the Board of Commissioners. But January is when they'll have that cutoff and actually start deciding how they're going to use these dollars.
Should they send those letters or those comments to the Board of Commissioners, or should they be emailing them directly to their representative?
I think
their
good.
commissioner.
Yep. I think both options are good. It's similar to having served in the State House. People would contact me directly when they had things they wanted me to share with my colleagues. And it's the same with the commissioners. They all talk to each other. And so if they're on board, I certainly think they would share those ideas with other members as well.
Okay. Now I want to, we just have a few minutes. I want to go back to election and election day work. Okay. On your one of your cards, you said that you wanted to expand and diversify our election day workers. How is that coming along?
So one way that we plan to do that is by engaging students. And so we just actually ordered these sort of sample ballots that we can take to the school so that people can run them through the tabulator. One, to just talk to them about them as a voter and how this process actually works, but also to talk to them about how they could be a worker. And I did mention it at my student meetings this fall as well, but explain, you could get paid to do this work, and it's a really good opportunity. And a lot of our local clerks would really welcome young people, because oftentimes younger people are, they're good at the computer. If we can get them to do the computer work and pay attention to detail, they would be some really good workers. And so when we get closer to actually training workers next year, we'll be out again, talking with students, young people, and different organizations, college students as well, trying to get them to sign up to be actual election workers. And I think having represented the 95th district, there's a lot of opportunities to get into the schools here in the city, for example, and ensure that our representation is, that the voters look like the workers, right? So we want to make sure that people feel comfortable going into their polling location.
Right. That's good. Because I was going to ask you, why did you want to diversify?
Yep. Yeah, and that was the thing. I think that, as a person of color, I always feel more at ease when I see somebody who, looks like me when I walk into a room or something. Sure. It's just something that sort of immediately sort of calms you. And I think that voting is something that can be very overwhelming and intimidating. And so, when I go into my precinct, I want to make sure that it looks like my neighborhood, that's what would make me feel more comfortable.
Okay. All right. That's a lot.
That was a lot. Yeah. But thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah. There's good information there. We only covered a small portion of what really goes on in the clerk's office. You running up and down the stairs. There's a lot to do. I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that there was that much work involved with being a county clerk. And that was one of the things I wanted people to do, because I've had a couple of young people when I talk to, those who are in junior high school, and ask them about, learning more about the city. What do they do? Well, I can tell them now a little bit about what you do.
Good. I'm glad.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being on the show today. Our county clerk, who is Vanessa Guerra, she did an excellent job in telling us about some of the details of her work and the county, the services that are available. If
Thank you so much.
You would like to contact her or contact the county clerk's office, where should they go? Where do you find you? Where do they find you online?
Yep. SaginawCounty.com/clerk.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Vanessa Guerra, our county clerk for the county of Saginaw. Thank you for being a great guest here on Community Connections.
Thank you so much, Joyce.
And I'll talk to you again.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. I'd like for you to tune in next Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. for another sharing of Community Connections, community talk for community people. Today's Community Connections radio magazine was brought to you by the Saginaw NAACP and its Youth Council. Remember, membership is power. And I personally invite you to get connected, be informed, and stay involved. I will talk to you next week.
You've been listening to Community Connections with Joyce Harvin on KISS 107.1. The views and opinions expressed on Community Connections by the host, its guests, or call-ins do not necessarily represent the opinion of this station, the staff, its owners, Alpha Media USA, or its advertisers.
It's straight talk, straight with no chaser. It's straight talk with